from Makery, and today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet my corner to corner heart quilt square. This is a beginner friendly corner to corner crochet quilt block. It is made using DK weight yarn and the normal corner to corner double crochet stitch, but you could also do this pattern with worsted weight yarn and the half double crochet corner to corner stitch. Before I show you how to make this quilt block, be sure to hit the subscribe button below and like this video, and let's go ahead and get started. To make this corner to corner quilt square, you're going to need a few different things. I am making this quilt square in a temperature blanket style, so I picked my two colors that were the lowest temperature of the month, and it's this light blue and this nice deep purple color, and then I have white yarn for the background. I'm using Knit Picks / Recrochets Swish DK weight. I also have available the pattern in the worsted weight yarn as well if you'd like to use that instead. This is a great project to use up some scrap yarn that you might have in DK weight, but this is just the yarn that I'm using. Super soft, highly recommend it. You'll also need a size I 5.5 millimeter crochet. You also need some scissors so that you can cut your yarn when you are making your yarn bobbins or when you are just needing to switch your colors. So these are all the supplies that you will need. So now that it's time to get started on my block, I am going to begin with my main color here and do those first few rows on my square before I start to use my colors. So what you're going to do is start with a slip knot, and then we're going to begin like you do with every corner to corner crochet project, where we will start by chaining 6 stitches, and then we go down to the third chain from the hook, or the fourth chain from the hook, which is right here. We yarn over, insert our hook, and do our double crochet, and we do 1 double crochet in each of the rest of the chains all the way up to the slip knot. So now that we need to do some increases, what we'll be doing is we're going to start the same way we did before, where we're going to do a chain 6, and then we are going to flip our work like so, and then you will work in these 3 chains right here. So you're going to skip the first 3 and go down to these 3 here below those ones, and do your double crochets. And then once you have that square finished, then we are going to join it to this one we did before. So we're going to take our crochet hook, go on that first double crochet that we did, and then do a slip stitch through that to join these 2 squares together. So now we have 2. This is the first row and this is our second row, and so we need to do 1 more square to finish off our second row. So you do your next square by chaining 3 stitches, and then we're going to work in this chain 3 space from the very beginning. So we will do 1, 2, and 3 stitches, and then we've got our second row finished. So you will just, while you create this whole pattern, you're going to just be doing a variation of this until you get to the decreases after you've gone to the corners that go directly across the diagonal middle. So it'll be the top right corner, and the bottom left corner will be then where you start doing your decreases after those. So you'll just keep repeating that same process of doing a chain 6 and then making your squares. You always do your squares, one on your starting chains, another on the next square, and so on until you reach the end of your row, and then you repeat that process. So go ahead and do this method till you get to your color changes that So on my fully colored in chart here, you'll see that overall in this temperature blanket version of this pattern that your colors won't be evenly distributed for the most part. If you're doing the patchwork version, then you'll just have alternate between those two colors. But here, since I'm doing the temperature blanket version, I've colored in the various temperatures. So overall, it was didn't have a ton of super cold temperatures. It was a pretty mild month of February, so that's why there's most of this purple here to represent all of those days there. And then I've got a third color up here which marks my days that the low is in the 50s. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to add in your colors once you get to this portion on your chart. So this is row 12, so this will be a wrong side row. We're going to start by doing 4 white squares, then have the purple, and then have your blue going for 4, and then do 3 to finish off that row. So once you get to the color work on row 13, I recommend just taking your yarn ball and then just using this instead of a bobbin. But for this portion down here, as well as some of this part right here on the blue, we're gonna just, I'll show you how to do the different colors with these yarn bobbins, adding those in. This chart's really fairly simple with the color changes. There aren't any complicated things, and since you're not using many colors, especially if you're doing the more patchwork version, that one's really really straightforward. Then you will just be doing your squares like normal and then just following the chart through the whole thing. So let's show you how to do the very first color add-in. So once you get to the third double crochet that is going to end this 4th square, instead of finishing off your yarn instead of finishing off your stitch with your white yarn here, we are going to take our purple yarn and we are going to do 1 square with that. So we will yarn over and use a slip stitch to pull that through there, and then we will be carrying this white yarn, and I like to carry my purple yarn as well, so that I basically weave in the end for this by crocheting around it as I go, and then that way I don't have to do it later. So then we will take this, the little slip stitch through there, then we're going to do our 3 chains and then yarn over and go like this to do our normal stitch. And so on here, you'll notice that you aren't going to be using the white yarn for 5 squares. So what I would recommend doing is you can either have a second ball of white yarn at this end here, or you can use a bobbin to do some of those squares on that side. Because if you look at the chart, you'll see that the white is pretty spaced far apart. It's almost divided directly in half in terms of where you're going to be using it and where you won't. So if you have the majority, like the bigger ball of white yarn, I would keep it on this side, and then you can join it up here again. So you can split like your yarn ball into 2 different ones, so that way you always have one that's used on this side here. Then you don't have to carry back and forth and use up more yarn. So if you are going to do that and use a separate yarn ball or have a bobbin, and say you haven't done it right away, you can just take this white yarn and then you can cut it right now. Let's move this out of the way. So then you just cut your yarn right here, and then you can weave in this end the same way, and then you'll join the white yarn back up again at the top. So if you want to make your bobbin at this point, or if you've already done it ahead of time, then I'll just show you how to rejoin this white yarn in there. So we're going to do the same thing where we join this purple yarn. We're going to take our blue yarn and join it right here. Then we'll do our slip stitch, and then we can carry all these yarn threads if you want to, or if you just want to weave them in later, that's totally fine as well. Because if you do carry them, you'll want to make sure that the colors don't pop out on the other side. So you'll hold your yarn further down on the squares so that you do technically crochet around it, but it doesn't pop up and overshadow the square that you're working on. So go ahead and do that for 3 more squares. On our last double crochet of this 4th blue square, we're going to rejoin the white yarn. So I'm just using the same ball of yarn just to show how to just join the colors, but you'll want to use your yarn bobbin or second ball of yarn at this point. So then you'll just join it like you did the others, and then you'll continue working along that. Now, when you are switching colors, because we're using these yarn, these little balls of yarn to mark our spots, we don't carry like this purple yarn, that will just stay down there. The blue yarn stays down here because we won't be carrying it up this to the very end of this row. When you're working on the wrong side, you want to make sure that all of your ends of your yarn and your strands of yarn are in the back of your work. So for example, I'll undo this to show you right here. So say we had our blue yarn up in the front here, and then we joined with a slip stitch to right here. We're going to join with the slip stitch to here, and we had that blue yarn in the front, and then, oh, what if when we come back, where's the yarn? Oops, it's on the wrong side. So if we were to join this, it's going to have a weird strand of yarn there. So you want to make sure that when you are dropping this yarn color and keeping it unused, that you want to make sure it's always on the back side. So when you're working on the front, they'll always be in the back when you're making them, but if you have your ends, if you're moving your yarn ball around a lot, just make sure it's always on the back side of your work. So then when you we'll be doing the rest of this, so once you join your second ball of white yarn, then you won't carry it all the way to the end down here. And that's essentially just how you're going to be switching colors to make this the rest of this chart. You'll just follow the rows and note the color changes here. So when you get up to this huge portion of purple, I recommend using this ball of yarn, and then just making sure that you keep things just not carrying these yarn colors across too many squares, otherwise it can get a little messy. And that is essentially how you make this heart-shaped quilt block. So once you get to the decreasing portion of your corner to corner square, you'll see I went ahead and did some decreases just to show you kind of how it looks. I tried to make it as easy as possible so that you only ever use the same color. When you're doing decreases, you don't need to change colors in order to do that. If you are new to doing corner to corner crochet, basically this is just a way of that we are finishing up the project. So we are just going along, making it have nice straight edges. And so how you do that is, instead of doing our normal chain 6 that we do when we do an increase along the edges over here, we are just going to be slip stitching across. And one thing just to keep in mind is you want to make sure that your loop on your hook is not too big, otherwise it will make your edge really weird. So you'll just slip stitch 3 stitches across here. And then instead of doing a chain 6 to start this next stitch, we are going to do a chain 3. And this same decrease technique works for both the right and the wrong sides of your work. So instead of doing your normal 6 chain stitches before you begin, you'll just do your normal 3 stitches before you begin, and do that all the way across. And then you'll just join with a slip stitch to your next stitch, and the same goes for when you get to the edge over here. you will just join your square you made right here with this edge right there, then do your 3 slip stitches and then begin continuing to decrease. You are all done with your square. It will look nice and beautiful like this, and you'll have a cozy blanket square that you can make either a bunch of these, or you can add this to your 2020 mystery quilt. I hope that you liked this video and that you found this tutorial helpful. Be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any of my tutorial videos and upcoming corner to corner mystery quilt blocks. And if you want the free graph pattern of this block, the patchwork version of it is available at the link in the description, as well as some of my other tutorials and free patterns for you. And I can't wait to see what kind of heart squares that you create. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. See you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like it below if you enjoyed watching it, and hit the subscribe button if you never want to miss out a video from me. And also check out my other videos and tutorials on my channel. See you next time.